So I went shopping this week and I found this blazer that I really loved, but I just wasn't quite sure about the shade. So I ran it through ChatGPT to make sure that it matches perfectly with my color palette, which is soft summer, that I also discovered with the little help of AI. And it kind of stopped me for a second because I realized just how many parts of my life I'm optimizing right now, especially using AI. So I'm curious, what have you been optimizing this week?
I feel like Yanni, you need to go first because you're the queen of optimization.
I am the queen of optimization and also habit stacking. So it's not a surprise that AI is at work. Obviously, being a mom, I am, facing another optimization challenge because there's more that I have to do. But ChatGPT has been amazing. I recently, this is so specific, but I had ChatGPT create a weaning plan for stopping breastfeeding. And it's amazing. I wouldn't have ever known how to do that and optimize it based on my life. I also saw that there are some creators that have basically, inputted like the type of life they want to live, and then they're using ChatGPT as an executive assistant. So I'm also doing that. That all to say that, do I always follow the plan because things happen? No. But I'm kind of obsessed with this idea that you can have a personal executive assistant. And I think there's even more that I can do with that. How about you, Christine?
I have been using ChatGPT to not to write LinkedIn content, but optimize my strategy. So, what I did at the start of the year is I screenshotted all of my top performing posts because I didn't just want to give raw data. I wanted to give the images I'm using, the copy I'm using, and then engagement as well to give a more holistic view into what type of content I'm creating and how it's performing. And then I also gave my follower growth count. I gave all of the other stats that you can pull from the platform. And then I essentially just voice noted this long message into ChatGPT saying, hey, these are my goals. I want to reach 10,000 followers before end of June. So that's what I'm striving for. Where should I be optimizing my content? What content streams should I formalize? Should I create series? And it outputted a full strategy on how to get there. And obviously, I'm tweaking it as I go. I'm still writing all my content. I'm still kind of like making it my own, but it's
Yeah, so
really,
you have like a junior strategist working for you at least, right?
yeah, not even that junior, I would say. And it was, and the funny part was like, it was also able to kind of like see things that I'm not able to see because I'm obviously too close to my content. And so we'll see. I'm giving it like bi-weekly updates on my follower growth and how I'm doing. And so I'm kind of iterating on the go. And by the way, if you want my prompt guide, I actually then asked ChatGPT to turn it into a full formalized prompt guide that anybody can use. So I have that doc and I have that link. So if anyone in the audience wants to try it out, you can just DM me. I'll send it over.
No, this needs to be one of those posts where it's like comment prompt and you'll get
Yes,
it. I've been
I will
wanting to try
comment.
that.
I hate those posts though. Like
I
I
hate
like just ah.
I hate them too,
But
but
they
I
work.
kind of need you to do that just for the plot.
Yeah.
All right. So you're listening to House of Content, the podcast about culture, marketing, social media, and how it all shows up in our actual lives. So lately, as we're talking about, it feels like we're kind of trying to optimize everything, and we're tracking our sleep, we're training our minds, and we're using AI as our assistant and optimizing our careers and our money and using AI as a second brain and just basically running ourselves like startups. So today we're talking about what it actually gives us, if it gives us more freedom or if it gives us more pressure, and where all of this might be heading. So let's dive in. And I want to ask you, where do you feel like your life has turned into data, and what are your current KPIs as a human?
KPIs as a human really is capitalism final boss, but I cannot say I'm not here for it. I think for me, and we've discussed this on the podcast before. There were boards. There was Christine's Excel sheet or Google Sheets
There
on
was
Drive that has been active since I want to say like
It's still
2018 or
active to
so.
this
It's
date.
still active till this day, and I'm tracking all different facets of my life. Like for example, I have getting all of my medicals, like, a skin check, dental, all of that in. That's one of my KPIs. I've got my money KPIs, but then I think a new layer to that has become like almost like KPIifying your career and where you want to go, both personally as a creator, but then also as, um, for me as a marketing director, right? So I feel like I have goals for pretty much every area of my life. And sometimes that terrifies me a little bit. But on other days, I feel like I'm at least like I'm on a track and I know where I'm going. So, my mind's a little split on this.
Yeah, I recently introduced goals that read a little bit more like KPIs. And I think it has been helpful. If you're asking me what is data in my life, I'm kind of obsessed with data. So, health has been KPIfied a long time ago. For me, obviously, sleep. I am on a deep level on this. And, if you've seen my TikToks, I've gone viral for even sharing some of my sleep and health data because it was telling me things that, told a lot about what's happening in my body. And so I think starting to combine your actual KPIs in life and in work with sleep data is kind of where I'm at, which is, I think, like a 2.0 level where it's like, okay, now that I know every single part of my data, where it's, my cycle, my sleep, the amount of deep sleep is what I look at a lot. So if that's not over a certain threshold, I know that I'm not going to be doing certain things. Like I'm already using it to create my day, which I think is new for me versus being in the learning phase. So lots of data, lots of KPIs, but I think at the same time, one of my KPIs, funnily enough, is embracing spontaneity. So I want to be spontaneous, and that kind of goes against KPIs. But I think, you know, that is important. So we don't get all crazy about it.
Yeah, like I can relate with all of that so well. I feel like all of us, we love optimization and finding new areas in our lives that we can get even better at. And like obviously, like there is this downside of it. And like I can totally resonate, Yanni, with what you said about embracing more spontaneity and just downtime that like purely has no goal at all. Like we've created so many goals that sometimes we kind of forget to also embrace the time where you don't have any goals and you can just like go
Yeah.
on with
Hmm.
vibes, because especially when we're all working in creative industry, like you need that for your creativity and just to be even better at what we do, and also as a human.
And I think also the other part of data is like, aside from the, I feel like there's an instant gratification almost type response to some data. Like I'll make a confession. Like sometimes I can't believe I'm saying this. Sometimes I like I'm in my calculator app and I'm just like put it like I'm calculating my worth across like all of my different assets, from like 401k to my investments to my cash, and I just like,
You're
and
just like, everything's fine. I'm
I just
okay.
I
I'm
do it for
doing
fun.
this.
I do it for fun. And then I take it one step further, is like, if there's one website that I love, is I love compound interest calculators
Oh, yeah.
so
Yes.
much. And so I'm just like in there planning different scenarios of like, if I like invest this much every month for the next 20 years, like, or like how long does it take to like hit 1 million or so. And so I think that data has like very much become like an emotional asset for a lot of people, for myself as well. But the other side of it too is, I feel like data has also become a content stream for a lot of creators. Have you seen those creators making content around their strict programs? So basically the like the life rules that they make for themselves, for their appearance, for their money, for their health. And so I actually feel like data has become a common language that we share between audiences and creators, and it's almost like a perpetuating cycle of content as well.
Yeah, I agree, but I love your example because remember the time, especially in the finance content space, where it was like the first step is just looking at your bank account, like just open the thing and make it a habit. So yours
Mm-hmm.
is like the other end of it, where you're just like making future calculations and there's absolutely no scary moment. So I love that. But I agree. I think that there's a lot of good habits that people are sort of taking into their lives after seeing the content. But to Mel's point and what I said about spontaneity, like I think the other side of it is that it's easy to want to optimize every part of your life. Like you're trying to follow a different thing. You see this video and someone's doing this program and you need to hit these things and these things. And it's easy to get lost in that at the same time.
But I can't deny that it is insanely motivating in the morning to open, like, especially after a good night of sleep, open my Aura app and see that, like, all the appraisal that I'm getting, like, and Aura is telling me, go get them, like, go out in the world, like, you, today, like, is the day to, like, do, like, all your favorite activities. And it's like plus 90 readiness, which isn't like super often. It is maybe a couple times a week. Like today, I knowingly didn't even check it because there's also the other side of it. Like the data can also make you feel like even like more sluggish, or like I can kind of like, oh,
Anxious.
yeah, or anxious. I'm like, oh, like my readiness is so bad. Like it's telling me to take super easy today. So I usually don't even check my data when I've had like a bad night of sleep that I know of, and I'm like, no, I want to feel strong today. So I just decide that I don't even look at the data until later in the evening, and then like I can optimize like going to bed earlier or something like that.
I think I'm so type A that I willingly fight against like some areas of like getting data. Like for example, I'm super anti Aura Ring for that. Like I don't need to know that side. Like I would rather, and I am a pretty healthy person. I work out a lot, I eat healthy, I try to get my sleep in, but that's like one area where I kind of want to like maintain an organic feel. It's already enough that like for example, I do track my steps just on my phone, but I'm the type of person who will, like, if I go to the gym and I'm on a cross trainer or on a device that's it's not going to record automatically, I'm going to like use ChatGPT to estimate my steps, and then I'm going to log them in there manually because I need to have every single step in. And so I feel like on the health side of things, if I introduce Aura Ring, like I am gone. Like you will never see me again because I'm in like some type of number analysis for the rest of
But
my
I
life.
think that's interesting too because I feel like it used to be more on you if you want to track. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of choose. And just like protein is being put on everything, I've noticed
Mm-hmm.
that now it's not a choice anymore to track. Even my uh gym or workout place that I go to, they have their own app and they just introduced a function where you set a goal for how many times and then it tracks it for you, and it's like you're one workout away from your goal. I'm like, I didn't set a goal. And so I think that's interesting that it's starting to be more forced on you, like protein, which
Mm-hmm.
again I'm kind of into. um than on you, and if you don't want to do that, it's being pushed on you in so many
Mm-hmm.
places.
So I'm curious to know, like, what is something that you're not tracking, but you know that you should? Is there something in your life that, like, that would need attention, but you're intentionally choosing not to even look there? Because, like, for me, I would say something that I've been struggling a lot, I would say, especially recently, that the past year is my screen time. I have the setting on where I'm tracking it, but I'm not actually tracking it where I'm like checking it and like making sure that I keep it low. Like I'm actually kind of terrified to check it. I think it's like to the roof, and that's something I decided last week that I want to start tracking that, because I do feel like that could help me focus more on the things that I want to focus on. But I'm curious to know if like you have anything that you're choosing not to track, even though you know you should.
My first reaction was like I have my eye on everything, like I know what's going on. But then if I think further, I think that lately, and maybe it is the influence of everybody talking a lot about protein and nutrition. Like I'm a pretty intuitive eater. I try to cook a lot at home or bring my own lunch to work even because I'm not in a mood for spending $30 on a sad salad. That's a whole other story. I guess it relates to my financial KPIs, but I'm not going there right now. I think I would like to be maybe more conscious of macros. but at the same time, like I kind of want to find that balance between, like, I don't want to go into the world of like every single meal I'm just thinking in terms of like macro breakdowns versus like thinking about what's actually like, what am I in the mood for, you know, what's going to fill me, like what kind of day I've had. So like I'm of two minds with this. I feel like I should do more of it, but I'm afraid I'm going to like end up in the, like, you know, the health land where, you know, cuz I get obsessed with things very easily, and so I'm almost kind of like being like, no, like I don't want to see that.
I think as millennials, like we feel like that's a slippery slope. Like I
It
totally
is a
relate with that,
slippery slope.
Christine. Like
Mhm.
maybe we've all been there when we were like teenagers or young adults where we like counted our calories. At least I have. And
Oh, I
I
have
and
totally.
I don't want to go back into that. So I'm also like super hyper aware of it where at the same time I want to be healthier and like make sure that I get all the nutritions I need, but simultaneously I don't want to like risk going into that place where I'm like obsessing over food instead of
Yeah,
like
where
eating
it becomes
intuitively.
Mhm.
unhealthy,
Yeah.
especially sort of in the fitness workout food area. My example is maybe a little bit different. And Mel, I think you inspired me because in a previous episode, I remember you mentioning that you have planned all your trips for the whole year and you're trying to set the stage at the beginning of the year. And my first instinct to that was a little bit like, also I like to be a little bit more spontaneous and like I don't know what comes up. So I've got sort of places I want to go and trips that I want to take, but it's not like the whole year is planned. On that note, I also have goals or KPIs or things, you know, in the area of spending time with the people that matter, you know,
Mhm.
being part of a community. And I know that I should start tracking how much time I'm spending towards those things because my tendency is to spend a lot of time on work,
Mhm.
a lot of time on improving myself professionally outside of work. All good things, right? And a lot of time making sure that I'm exercising and sort of health wise optimized per se. But I think I have other goals that sit outside of those things. And it's really hard to find time, especially being a mom that works and travels and does all the things. But I think that I should start tracking how much time I'm putting towards those other goals because I would notice there's probably reasons to why those get cut from the calendar first. And I do want to get to a place where there's more balance with that, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I love that. And I feel like more people should focus on that. I feel like it's kind of getting lost in this era where we're all spending a lot of time on social media. I'm thinking even the time that I spend on social media, I realized that I'm actually watching more content from people that I don't know
Mhm.
than my friends and my friends' stories or interacting with them. Sure, I might send some memes or videos, but like there's so much time that is spent on my phone interacting with like people that I don't even know. So actually, that makes me want to kind of jump into the social media and how that's impacting our perception. And like we're in this era where we're optimizing our lives and watching thousands of others people also do the same in public. Like do you feel like social media is skewing kind of like what normal even looks like, and like how you're reflecting that in your own life, and what is the like what are you kind of taking from there, or how is that impacting your life?
The biggest thing that I am questioning myself is the getting caught in the idea that everything needs to be aesthetic all the time. Like your meals
Mm.
need to be aesthetic,
Mm.
your vacations need to be aesthetic, your, well, style, obviously, beauty, your personal habits, right? But I think we've like almost been like sucked into this performance of lifestyle in many ways. And I think what's dangerous about it is that it's really fun, right? Like you see someone, for example, do like a day in my life in New York City, and they start their day like, you know, it's the newest black sesame latte at a niche Japanese cafe, and the progression of the day, and selecting the clothes and getting your nails done. All of that is, once you participate in that, you get this almost like this enjoyment from seeing that being performed, and then you perform it as well. But then the question is like, am I actually performing somebody else's vision of a life versus your
Mm.
own, right?
Mm.
And then are you also pulling less enjoyment from life from like moments that are not aesthetic? I know it's a little bit of a deep cut, but I think that it is definitely skewing what normal looks like. Even with, I saw this creator uh post on TikTok, I think it was yesterday. Stop comparing your life and your lifestyle to women who work as escorts or sex workers. Like there's a huge conversation now online that a lot of these creators who like have insanely glamorous lives, they're funding it through sex work, which again, like to me is like, if that's your life and that's your choice of making money, I'm who am I to judge that? But like making those types of money as a professional woman or like a 9 to 5 job is like not realistic, and like we lose sight of that sometimes.
Yeah, I think there's like two sides to it. There's the, if someone has it, it's possible kind of mindset, and you can like aspire to have a lifestyle based on the content you see. But I think we're talking about the over optimization here. And I think that's where I see more the trouble versus seeing someone living an amazing life that you aspire to have as well, being motivated to put the work towards getting there, that being something maybe that you don't see in your own network of people that you actually know. Like there's a lot of positives to that, but it's the over optimization. Like there's this, like, I think nurse creator who does these crazy morning routines where it's just like so extreme, and obviously it's purposeful. Like people comment on it and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe you're doing all these things, and they're just like unwrapping their whole face, and like it
Yes,
just
I've seen
goes
those.
to an
Hmm.
to a level that's beyond, and I think it's purposeful. But I think that, like, yeah, the over optimization, and even especially now as a working mom, like I always feel like I have to be doing something, and I always feel like if I'm just more efficient I can do X, Y, and Z more things. And I think that's a pretty hard and unhealthy sort of space to be in, because you do need time to just do nothing. And when I think of the best times in my life, I was getting lost in a city by myself, and so you start to dream about moments like that, that are completely possible today for you.
Yeah, like social media has, it's definitely been like normalizing things that used to feel like very aspirational before. Like you were talking like about the like crazy like beauty treatments and like all these different steps and like really expensive wellness routines, and like even if you're not doing it all of it or any of it, like it kind of starts feeling like it's the baseline and you should be on it. You should be doing it as well because like this is what everyone else is doing, when in fact like it's it might be the few creators that just happen to be in your algorithm. So like there's definitely this feeling that I get where like, oh, like am I behind? Like should I be like doing more of these kind of treatments, or should I be doing this? And I kind of like want to be able to reduce that noise a little bit. And sure, it's fun to get those ideas, but like not think of that as the baseline or that's what everyone needs to be doing. Like sure, like if someone's really obsessed in skincare and like they probably use all their time on that, maybe they work in that industry, so it makes sense for them to be so obsessed with that. But like our time cannot possibly spread to all those different areas of life. And like
One, yeah, I have one example on this. I got somehow sucked in. I think I got sucked into the what Miami girls do to stay hot side of
oh,
algorithm
interesting.
because I was in Brazil for 5 weeks and I was using a VPN that was in Miami, and so then my algorithm fed me all this content around what they're doing to stay so like insanely hot. Even though they go out every night, they drink alcohol, they go to all these indulgent restaurants, and it was insane. They're getting 20,000 steps. They walk like 10 miles once a week. They do hot yoga every single day. And I saw so many of those videos that I started thinking like, wait, like why am I not dedicating a couple hours a day into fitness until I was like I do not have those hours. You have a 9 to 5, you have your podcast, you have the content that you're creating, and you have a family. Like, this is like, you're not a Miami girl, nor do you want to be. But I think that was a great example of like how that kind of like gets in and skews you and like sucks you in, and then you have to consciously kind of like have a negotiation with yourself right after.
Like there, there's this idea how like we used to be the sum of the our five closest friends,
Mm-hmm.
and now that we're spending so much time on our feeds, like are we now the sum of the five creators that we follow the most or engage with the most? Like
My R's are widening because I think the crazy part of that, which your example, Christine, speaks to, is we don't get to choose all the time which creators those five would be. We're
Mm-hmm.
not seeing necessarily the content of people that we decided to follow or know in person. And sometimes the hooks and the extremes do
mm,
get the likes and the engagement. And so I think that's a pretty scary thought that we would be the sum of the five people we engage with the most, even if it requires, you to engage and bookmark things, because I certainly am doing that with content that I don't necessarily want to be consumed by
Mm-hmm.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
which is why I think we here would like to take a moment to demand a little bit more control over our algorithm, because I am tired of not like knowing what is going to be fed to me. Like it's always like one moment I might get this like really dramatic story of someone's fiance cheating on them, and then like it's like I don't want to see that, but then when the hook is really strong and it feels like
You'll
gossip,
end up watching.
I end up watching it and I'm like, for what reason am I listening to that story for 5 minutes? Like it doesn't do anything. Like it doesn't make me happier or more relaxed. Uh so yeah, I definitely would like to have even more control over that, and we should demand for that. But I have been recently, like if we talk about the people who we follow the most or we want to feel like our close circle, like in this parasocial friendship circle, like I want to talk about the people who have been inspiring you and who you would want to engage with more, or whose content you want to see. For me recently it has been this neuroscientist. I am not listening to Andrew Huberman anymore. I that ship
Went
has
off the
That
deep
sailed.
end.
era has
Yeah.
ended.
Ended.
Yes, but there's this neuroscientist that I'm sure at least Yanni you know of, Emily McDonald,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
and I love her. She feels very like practical and refreshing, and I love her new podcast as well that came out like last October or
Mm-hmm.
something. Like her content is so great, and like even
Mm-hmm.
though it is about optimization, like she does it in a very like gentle way, and it's more so like helping you to just focus living in a better life instead of you
Mm.
feeling stressed about you being behind and having to do all these things.
I have this fashion creator called Mandy Lee. I don't know if you've seen it, but she started this series around kind of like freaky or ugly shoes, where she was like showing her freaky shoe collection. And so they're, think like the tabbies, like Margiela tabby style shoes, but she is just a fashion creator who really like encyclopedically knows fashion, knows history, knows the archives, all that. And so I do really enjoy following her because it doesn't feel like another feed through of trends that you should be buying or trying, but rather connecting what's happening in fashion right now with history. And she does just very thoughtful breakdowns. So I do like her. And I also really like on LinkedIn AJ Eckstein, who I'm gonna try and get him on the podcast. Let's see what he says. But he
Just
is
putting it out there.
just putting it out there. I actually hung out with him this week at a couple creator events. He is the founder of Creator Match. They're a B2B influencer agency, but he gave a whole keynote on Wednesday about how you need to be showing all facets of building a business, and he's been building his agency for the past year or so. And he talks a lot about failure. He talks about mistakes. He talks about the time that they wanted to front load creator payments, because as we know, creator payments in this industry, they're like, I've seen like, I had like what, like I think it was like net 50 days. They're like just insanely long. And they wanted to front load and pay creators before even the work goes live. But then they have to foot the bill, right? And so they had a client that went under, and so they paid creators like $10,000 and they had to foot the bill because the client wasn't able to pay. And so stories like that that tell the sort of the tough side of entrepreneurial pursuits, I think to me are very inspiring. And he's someone who's like lately just shown up on my feed a lot and just given me a lot of food for thought on all things related to building and building in public.
Yeah, I love those. I'm obviously in this new era myself as well, trying to figure out my identity as a mom and creative director and, all the things. And I recently got introduced to a new media company called Spread the Jelly. And it's basically started by two moms. One's a DJ and one is a creative director. I think it's Lauren Levinger and Amrit Tietz. I don't want to butcher the names. And I just realized that I am not following a lot of people that I can see myself in a way. And I'm not saying we should only be following people that look like us, for example. That's something that I'm trying to be really conscious of. But I think just seeing like these women that are starting something of their own, doing their thing as creatives while being moms has been extremely helpful, because I first ended up in this like pocket of Orange County um young moms that are all influencers. And I think like I just, while I love the inspirational content, I just don't see myself in it. And especially the challenges of, the things I'm doing and trying to figure out are not reflected in the content. And so I love the content to be inspirational, but I also love that these people are aspirational in terms of their careers and, what they're doing. So that's kind of being the one for me. And I also love following another Lauren, the founder of Road, who recently had a baby. So again, kind of this pocket of, women that are really doing their thing and getting out there, creating companies, starting media companies, whatever it is. And yeah, still figuring out what that looks like for them as moms is being kind of my new era and pocket of content.
I love that. And how clutch is it that these days, like if you don't have so many mom friends, like I mean, I know you have some, but like you can't, like a lot of people here in LA still don't have kids, like way in their 30s. So like how amazing is that that you can find those people to get
Hmm.
inspired by on social media? So gotta love that for that. Like there are obviously a lot of great
Yeah.
sides. I want to also zoom out just a little bit as we're approaching the end of the episode. Like where are we actually heading with all of
Hmm.
this, like tracking and optimization? Like, do we feel like we're actually like designing a life that lives us live like more intentionally and be happier and more fulfilled, or are we just really building this very like well-oiled machine with this hidden optimization trap? Like, what is going on, like in the big picture?
That's a deep question. I think the push for data and optimization is in many ways because it does come from corporations. They're building out entire businesses around the idea of you have a product and then you're extracting data and information that fulfills you or serves a purpose at some level. So in some ways there is that sort of danger of like this is actually it's marketing, right? It is a marketing tactic to keep you as a loyal customer because the whole product is centered around data, especially around wellness, around even like if we think about supplements. I know I actually I canceled my Nutrafol subscription a little while back because I think it's so
The
expensive.
tea.
I know. I think it's really expensive. And then a friend of mine whose mom is a nurse said that it could be pretty heavy on your liver. Whole other story.
Mm.
But I'm just testing out different supplements. But anyways, as a part of that subscription, they had this whole sort of like view into my hair growth life cycle on based on how long I'd been taking it and what I should be noticing, right? So it is a marketing layer, which is to say, like, I do think there's an opportunity for brands to be leveraging data more, and especially their consumer data and finding patterns. Like, for example, I don't know if you've seen the Instacart, the Super Bowl commercial where they have like Ben Stiller and I think Benson Boone singing about bananas and picking bananas, but that is actually based off of an insight that bananas are most one of the items that people are writing the most notes on like how to pick that banana. So again, like an example of how to use that data. So I think in many ways there's so many more ways that companies could be using their data creatively, and I want to see that. But as consumers and as individuals in the society, I think we have a responsibility to ourselves to kind of delineate where is this data serving me and where is it serving the brand.
And that's the scary part, that the data is empowering because it's giving you as the individual information to take action, which is definitely related to health, because especially for women there hasn't been a lot of factual information
Mm-hmm.
that's created for them, so we've sort of taken it into our own hands to understand our bodies and what needs to be done to optimize and figure things out. But the scary side of that is if that information is in the wrong hands, if that data and information is used in the wrong way, we lose the control that we thought that we got from the data. And so that's a pretty dark scenario. And I think it's valid to be, worried and aware of the possibility of that. But at the same time, you kind of have to weigh in the benefits of that for you as
Mm-hmm.
an individual.
Like actually my DNA data for from the 23andMe got leaked, so those things
Yeah,
can
same.
happen. So it's definitely something to think of, but at the same time I
I
know
was
someone,
skeptical, so I never did it.
but I know someone who found their sister, long lost sister, through a DNA test, and they found each other in their 50s and
Mm-hmm.
now are the best friends. So there can be some beautiful things also
Mm-hmm.
behind those tools. So if we were to create some kind of house rule for brands, if your brand is helping you to track something, like I think they should also help them let something go. Like I feel like future kind of belongs to those brands and creators who don't just help us perform better, but they also kind of help us live better. So I
Mm-hmm.
think like there needs to be more focus on that, the living part, where like because otherwise the future can be pretty dark. So I think like finding the balance in that, where we're empowering with data but also so that we can live better and like actually focus on living intentionally and
Mm-hmm.
present.
And
Yeah,
not
from a
just buy more.
content perspective, I would actually love to see that from, a brand like Aura Ring, where they actually create content on someone not tracking anything on some day, like almost
Yes.
encouraging, because
It's a
there is that
disruption.
option to have a, what do they call it, like a rest day, or like kind of, mute some of the data if you sort of aren't feeling well or whatever it is. So I think that's a genius way to create the balance and the sort of behavior around it that feels like it is okay to also tune out sometimes.
I'd love to see a beauty brand maybe pick their like look at the data and look at the least popular shades across their like let's say a makeup collection, and then commission beauty creators to create looks with their least popular products. Like doing something to like revert it, I think could be an interesting data hook that could, just serve as a little bit of unexpected creativity.
Yes, we want to see that. Thank you so much for tuning into House of Content. And if you enjoyed this episode, as always, don't forget to rate, review, and follow us on social media. It really helps us. And we'll see you next time.